Hey everybody, this is Tiffany with Boss on the Budget. I help new and small nonprofits get up and running. So if you need help with your nonprofit, you should be subscribed to this channel. And in this video, I'm going to share, when's the best time for your nonprofit to raise money throughout the year? Now, I just want to be clear, on this channel, I specifically speak to small and new nonprofits. Obviously, every nonprofit can benefit from this information, but I'm specifically talking about people who are trying to raise money, trying to build up their donor base, all those kinds of things, and trying to figure out, when should I really focus on my fundraising and how should I focus on my fundraising? So just keep that in mind. So in this video, I'm going to share when's the best time, but also I'm going to give 5 tips for what you should do to maximize that time, all right? So make sure you watch to the end so you can get all the good tips. So first, let me answer the question, when's the best time? And you're not going to like this answer because I'm just going to say it's whatever makes sense for your nonprofit and for your donors. If your donors typically give a certain way in a certain time of the year, then that's the best time. With one exception though, I really want to talk about the end of the year, and it's often referred to as the giving season. And that's the period between Giving Tuesday and December 31st in the United States. I also want to be clear, I'm talking about the United States. Giving Tuesday is the Tuesday after Thanksgiving, for all of those who don't know what that is. This roughly 30 days, is sometimes more than that. That period, a lot of nonprofits make a lot of their money. So it's, for them, can be the best time of the year. So I'm going to give you some quick statistics, but I also want to just share how you can leverage the giving season for your own nonprofit, even if you're small and even if you're new. So the latest data I've seen from Candid is that 29% of nonprofits' donations are made at the end of the year. So that's a third of their donations that they make over the whole year is made within that roughly month period. And then what's even more wild is that 11% of their donations actually happen at the last 3 days of the year. So people get their donations in at the very end, and it can be a very profitable time of year for nonprofits that are seeking donations. So what does that mean for you if you're small and you're new? So that's for nonprofits who are used to making money, they have their systems in place, and they know how to leverage what's been happening for years and years. So how do you, who's new to the game or maybe new to asking for donations, how do you leverage it? I'm going to give you 5 things to focus on so you can take advantage of the giving season just like everyone else. The first thing I'll say is that in order to maximize the giving season, it's good to have a donor base built up already. So when I say donor base, I mean just your list of donors, just your list of people who have supported your organization in the past. The giving season is a really noisy time of the year. Just think about it. Think of all the things that are happening during this period. There's Thanksgiving, there's Black Friday, it's Christmas, people are checking out, going on vacation, it's the end of the year. It's a lot of noise. And so if you don't already have built up relationships with people, when you're trying to introduce yourself to people for the first time, you can get caught up in the noise too. In order for people to give, they have to have some kind of trust or connection, and it's better for you to have built that connection before the busiest time of the year when it comes to donations. Have you noticed that during this time of the year, you get a lot of emails, you get a lot of calls, you may get stuff in the mail because there's so much going on. People know that this is the time of the year where if they're going to ask, any time of the year, this is going to be the time. So if you're competing with all that and you don't have a relationship with people, or they've never given to you, or even worse, they've never heard of you, it's really hard in most circumstances to convince them to give during this time of the year. So my recommendation is spend before this time building up your donor base, building up people who give to you, people who know about your organization. And even if they haven't given, at least they know about the work that you do. So when you do have the opportunity to ask, it's not a surprise for them. The one exception I'll say to this is if you want to do a peer-to-peer fundraising campaign during this time, then that's a way that you can be introduced to new people and still have the likelihood that they'll give because they're giving the support a person they know. So if you've never heard of peer-to-peer fundraising, I talk about it a lot. I'm linking above a video where I break it down. And it's essentially when people fundraise on your behalf. So people are asking people in their own networks to give and support an organization that they care about. And when people hear from people they know and trust, they're likely to give. So that's the exception if you don't have any donors at all and you want to have some kind of campaign during the giving season, then it does make sense to attempt a peer-to-peer fundraising strategy so you can get new donors even with all the noise going on. So number 2, what you should be focusing on is gathering stories to be able to talk about the impact and the work that you do. People really respond to stories because that's how we relate. That's how we understand each other. So storytelling is really big in the marketing space, but it's also big in the nonprofit marketing space because your ability to tell stories, to be able to relate to what people are going through every day and then relate it to the work that your nonprofit is doing, gets people excited about your work, it gets people interested, and it makes them feel like they're connected to your work. So my recommendation is focus on the stories you want to tell at the end of the year. Again, it's really hard to get people's attention at the end of the year and shoot, anytime during the year, but especially during that time. So I recommend that you use stories to draw people in. Because a lot of times when you're drawing people in with a story, they don't even know that they're being solicited for a donation till the very end. And if you're telling a good story and if they're still tuned in to the end, then that's a good sign that you've been able to convince them and you've been compelling about the work that you're talking about. So you could tell a story of why you started your nonprofit. Maybe it's based on personal experience, and you can talk about that experience and how it shaped your life and how it brought you to this time now to be able to help someone else in your community. Especially people who are connected to you and want to know more about you and your journey. Hearing your journey and how it translated into helping someone else gets people excited and makes them feel like, oh, I want to do that too. That's somebody doing great work over there, and I want to make sure it happens because I care about that kind of thing. I care about that person's journey, and so I want to give to that. But it doesn't have to be just your startup story. It could be any story. It could be a story of impact for someone who received your services, or it could be the potential impact of someone who could receive your services. So even if you have not provided services yet, if you could talk about like the impact that it could make if you were able to have the resources to do something powerful in someone's life, that can change people too. That can motivate people to give too. So I want you to think about, what are the stories that you want to tell? What are the stories that you want to share about your nonprofit to pull people in to help them to support your organization? Number 3 is to take advantage of digital or online fundraising. So when I say online or digital fundraising, I just mean any fundraising that involves you using the internet to ask for money. So I want you to be able to get comfortable with asking for money online. So I need you to be able to have donation buttons set up on your website, to have your website up and ready to go, to make sure that donate button is prominently on the first page of your website, and every page of your website is prominently at the top or where people can easily access it. I want you to update your website so that when people get on that website, they can see very clearly what you do and why you do it. It does not need to have a lot of fluff that people need to read through to understand what the heck you even do. Your goal is to get people to give and get them to give without any distractions. I want you to think about, with your online and digital fundraising, how to make the process simple and easy for people to give, not make it complicated with a lot of steps and then having people have to give like a lot of information to give. I want you to think about how you can leverage social media because it's free. And I'm not saying social media because I like it, because I don't like it, but I'm saying it's free and it's a powerful tool that you can use to your advantage. So how are you using sites like LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or wherever you're on, Twitter, whatever makes sense for your nonprofit? How are you going to leverage that to raise money for your nonprofit? How are you going to show the impact of your work? Because you can use video just by taping things on your phone. You can use visuals to draw people in. So I want you to think about like how to use online or digital fundraising as a way to augment or like supercharge the work that you're doing, or your solicitations, your fundraising campaigns. And I'll just say this one point before I go to number 4. I'm not saying use online and digital fundraising in this way. You just create one post, or you set up your link and then you just put it out there and you wait for people to come to you. You're not going to be successful that way. If you just think I'll have my link in my bio and people should know to go to my bio to give, then it's not going to work. You just got to know that you got to work that thing. You got to talk about your nonprofit all the time. You got to give people the opportunity to give. And I'm not saying every time you meet somebody, the first thing you do is send them a link to donate, or you ask the same person to donate every day. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is that if you want people to give, it's going to take a lot of engagement, a lot of interactions that may involve first talking about your impact, educating them on the work that you're doing, asking them questions, building relationships with them, and then asking. It's not enough to just put out a link and think that people are going to respond. And I'm especially thinking about those who on Instagram, a lot of people do this in my page because they know that I talk about nonprofits and raising money. They'll DM me and then I've never heard from them before. I don't know who they are. And the first thing I get from them is like a link to give. And it's no explanation, no, hey, how you doing? Even if there was a, hey, how you doing? Like if the first time you interact with me, you're sending me a link asking to support, it's a little jarring. Now, if you do it enough, it may work for some people, but it's just not the best way to do it. The best way to do it is to build relationships and educate people about the work you're doing, involve them in the work that you're doing, and then asking. Okay, number 4 is to invest in technology. And I'm just going to say, lean into technology. So if you're a nonprofit, especially if you're a new nonprofit, then you should be using technology as much as you can. And I'm talking to y'all who are afraid of technology. For those people who are like, Tiffany, I can barely use my email. And now you're talking about using technology. What does that even mean? I want you to get comfortable with using apps and services because they're there to make your life easier, right? There's nothing that's going to take away like a human one-on-one connection. So I'm not suggesting that you use technology in a way to replace the relationships that you can make in person with people. But technology can absolutely help supplement the work that you're doing and make life a little easier. So one example is to have a donation platform. And a donation platform is just a way for you to be able to collect money for your nonprofit, but also collect the data on the people who are giving so you can track and look at analytics to see what that process is like, to see who gives, how much they give, how often they give. You can collect the data to be able to do analysis on how people give to your nonprofit. Donation platforms, there are so many out there, so there's never one that I'm just going to recommend over the other. Do what works best for you. But I have talked to a few of the donation platforms personally and know the people who work there. So platforms like Give Lively, like Rally Up, like GiveBox, GiveButter, those kind of platforms, DonorBox, Donately. I'm just throwing them out there. I'm not suggesting one over the other because they all have their different special traits that may work for some and not for others, but you should be using them because they're designed for nonprofits. A lot of people who create them are people who have worked in the nonprofit industry, so they know what it's like, right? So instead of just using something generic like a Cash App, which that's for another video, my thoughts on using Cash App, you're using a system that works for you because it was designed for nonprofits. And a lot of these platforms don't require an upfront investment. They only charge a fee once you collect a donation, and a lot of times they'll let the donor cover that transaction fee, okay? I'm talking about email marketing. You should be using some kind of email marketing system to be able to send messages, to send email newsletters to your donors so you can build a sense of community. You should be using some kind of CRM, a customer relationship management system. And in the nonprofit space, it's called a donor management system or donor relationship database or whatever it's called because everybody has different names. But it essentially is a database that you can use to collect information on the people who've given to you so you can learn how to build relationships with them and to ask them to give again. It gives you powerful data and a way to track so you can use that data in a way that helps you attract more money to your nonprofit. All those kinds of things you should be using to make your life easier. And if you're hesitating because you're afraid of technology, my advice is don't hesitate. Make sure you're using that because it does make your life easier and it honestly will help maximize your time during given seasons so you don't have to feel so stressed and feel like everything is on you. Let technology take some of the work out of it. Use the automations, use easier ways to make money so that you don't have to feel that pressure. And for number 5, this is my last piece of advice around giving season. If you're a nonprofit that you haven't asked for money yet because you've been nervous or you've been hesitant, my piece of advice to you is to use giving season as a way to test the waters. So a lot of times people who started nonprofits don't ask because they're afraid to. Now, if this is you, I want you to drop that in the comments and we're going to encourage each other. But it's nerve-wracking to ask for money. It's scary sometimes to ask people for money. So the thing that may be stopping you from raising money, it may be yourself. It may be your own fears. But what I'm saying is giving season is a time where people are used to being asked for money. People are used to giving. It's not weird to reach out to someone. It's not weird for them to get a solicitation. Most people have received or will receive at least one solicitation during this year. So let that fact ease your mind and make you feel comfortable about asking. Because what we do sometimes is we make it about us. Oh, they're going to think that I'm asking or I'm begging or I'm using it for the wrong way when I really need this for my nonprofit. And so that's what you need to do. You need to make sure it's focused on your nonprofit and not you. So don't be afraid to ask, because it's the time of year where people are used to being asked anyway. And use this time to test the waters. Test out using a Facebook fundraiser, or test out using some kind of solicitation through the mail, or using a peer-to-peer fundraising strategy, because it doesn't have to feel so uncomfortable, because everybody else in the space is doing the same thing at the same time. Does that make sense? So use that time to make yourself get more comfortable, get more confident in giving, instead of doing it during a time where you may feel alone or isolated or feel like other nonprofits are not doing the same thing as you. Lean into what other nonprofits are doing, even follow their lead. Look at what they're doing. Look at the language that they're using. Look at the number of emails people send you if you're on a nonprofit's email list. Model a lot of what they do so you can learn from that and then implement it in the next year. So all I'm saying is use this time as a learning period. Don't shy away from it. Use it to your advantage. Leverage this time to make it work for your nonprofit. If you need help raising money for your nonprofit, if you still don't understand the basics about fundraising, I do have a fundraising masterclass. I'm linking it below in the description box. And it's a 2-hour class. It's over 2 hours, where I walk through what is fundraising, how to ask for money, what you should be thinking about, and when it comes to donors and other ways to make money as a nonprofit. So make sure you check out the masterclass below. Also, if you need help, make sure you're checking me out at www.bossonabudget.com. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.